What up, y'all? DCFAYGOGUY. Welcome back to Albums I Missed in 2023. This is part 2. If you have not watched part 1, make sure you go back and watch part 1, just in case there's anything that you're thinking about in here that I didn't mention. I probably mentioned it in part 1, and if I didn't mention it in part 1, it's because I didn't listen to it. If you don't really know, if you're seeing part 2 before part 1, this is Albums I Missed in 2023. They're albums I listened to but did not drop a review for. So I'm giving a summary of albums that I listened to and just quick spitfire thoughts on the albums themselves. A way to show love to them without giving a full review, as I typically like to do when I do reviews. So jumping right in where we left off, this album dropped. Honestly, when it was coming out, I didn't have a lot of excitement for it. Just because when he drops albums, he drops them so much. And honestly, I was a little surprised that he took as long as he did to drop this one. I am talking about the one and the only Tech-9. Dropped Bliss back the end of July, beginning of August. Again, when this album came out, I had no major excitement for it. And when I got in and listened to it, and I feel like Tech-9 has this effect where it's almost every other album with him anymore. Because Nina came out back in 2019. I absolutely loved it. Interfere came out. Interfere came out in 2020. I didn't really care for it. But then Asinine dropped, I think, in 2021. I really liked it. And then, he skipped a year. He didn't put anything out in 2022. We had something come out in 2023. Bliss. And I like about half of the songs on here. I listened to it a few times and then I really moved on from it. Which is kind of weird because normally when Tech drops some shit, I'm listening to it for a while. I don't want to say he's uninspired right now, but I feel like the amount of music he pumps out, it's kind of and I've heard people say that Tech-9 puts out playlist albums. He puts out so much music that you can go listen to an album and you can kind of cherry pick songs from it and throw it in a playlist because you may not like everything that's on the album. And that's kind of what happened with Bliss. Going through here, I really like They Know Me. I like Tell Everyone. I like Things I Like. There's some good songs on this album, but going and listening to this front to back, I don't find myself drawn to it very much. So when it came out, I didn't listen to it a whole lot and pretty much made the decision right out the gate that I wasn't going to review it. Especially since a lot of times when I drop a review for a Tech-9 album, my following, my audience just doesn't give a fuck about Tech-9. But there's also a lot of people that, when the whole beef, if you will, happened with Violent J, there's a lot of people that threw up middle fingers to Tech-9, and that's unfortunate. They took one man's word and ran with it, which that's another topic for another video, which I'll never touch on because I got more important things I'd rather focus on. So moving right along, this album dropped. I was gonna do a fucking review for it, but then when it came time to sit down and do the review, I was like, I didn't know what all to say in my review, so I just opted to not review it, even though I put on Twitter that I was going to do this review. I just decided not to because I was like, I don't even know what I want to say about this album. So even going into this right now, I don't even fully know what I want to say about this album. But Whitney Payton dropped Side Effects. Now, last year she dropped, what was the name of the album she dropped last year? Audacity. She dropped the Audacity album and I did pick it up. I did review it. And when I listened to this, I loved this album way, 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 way more. But when it came time to actually just sit down and say what I wanted to say about the album, I was drawing a blank. I really like this album. I don't think a lot of people will like this album just because of the direction some of the songs go are kind of quote unquote radio, but they were catchy and I really enjoyed the songs themselves. Make Up Your Mind, Takes One to Know One, Into the Fire, Be Mine, Ring Around the Rose. I enjoyed a lot of the songs that are on here, and I knew that there was going to be a lot of people that probably don't like it at all, but I enjoy it a lot, and I guess you could call it a guilty pleasure, if you will, because Again, it does sound kind of like quote unquote radio, but I enjoyed it, and I actually have revisited it a lot. Now, when this album dropped right at the end of July, beginning of August, basically right around the same time as Bliss, I was listening to this more than I was listening to Bliss. Um, and I actually ended up with like a sinus infection at the beginning of August, and I ended up having like this fever dream, if you will. Not really a dream, but I was like, I had a fever and was like trying to fall asleep but couldn't. And I actually had Into the Fire like earwormed into my head, just kept replaying over and over and over that particular night. And I just like, I had a fever, was feeling hot, and I was like, Into the fire, welcome to the fire. It was kind of like a love hate relationship with that song after that, but I've also gotten over it since then, and I actually really enjoy that song still again. It's a catchy tune, and Side Effects is a really good album. I think it's a lot better than the Audacity. I think a lot of people might disagree with me. I just think I feel like with this particular album, I felt like she experimented a little bit more with singing and vocalizing more, whereas I feel like the Audacity was more of like rap chick. It was more like hip hop rap. So maybe that's why people will enjoy that more. I don't know. But Side Effects, I enjoyed it. I really liked it. But when it came time to do the review, I didn't really know what to say about the album, so I didn't do it. Moving right along to another album that I fucking love so much, and I wanted to do a review for this as well, but I kind of had a similar thing where it's like I didn't really know I didn't know what to say in my review. Like I said earlier, or if you haven't watched part one, I talked about it in part one. That Gruesome dropped a track or dropped an album and had another one that came out, and I had contradictive thoughts. Dark Flow Solution. Now, if you haven't watched part one, in part one I talked about the Nameless 2 that Gruesome dropped with Jimmy Don, and in that, or on that, I had stated that I almost felt like that album was too long. This EP is too short. I fucking love every track on here. Of course, Gruesome fucking kills it, man. I think Gruesome, Low-Key, Mad Max, anyone from Mission or anyone associated with Mission Infect is being slept on. I think they are fucking killers in the game, and people need to fucking give them a listen because they kill shit, absolutely kill shit. And I am honestly yearning for a new Mission Infect in 2024. I hope it comes to fruition. Just because there's some shit to drop this year from Mission Infect Generals, fucking Mad Max, Gruesome, and Low-Key, where they just killed shit. And even on Halloween, they dropped a fucking Mission Infect track, and I was like, we need some Infect in our lives right now. Like, we need some Infect projects in our life right now. And, part of that is, bouncing off of the Dark Flow Solution. Of course, I started a series back in the late summer, early fall, a series that I completely abandoned, Friday Flames, where I would take a 1-minute snippet of a song and play it for you guys with like a little animation. And one of them was for Poison in My Veins. I fucking love this song so goddamn much. It's in my top, like, I want to say 30 tracks of the year, which we will be doing our top albums of 2023 very, very soon. And, you should be able to see that on there. I think I'm going to show all the songs when I do it. I'm not really sure yet. I had to change how I wanted to track my top albums of 2023 again this year, just because we'll dive into that when we do that video. But Dark Flow Solution, absolutely dope. Gruesome killed it. Like, Dark Flow Solution, I feel like should have been maybe 2 to 3 more tracks, and I feel like it would be a perfect album. And probably would have ended up in my top albums, because with how short it is, I don't know. I haven't even really looked and tracked my top albums. It might even be. So I might as well just shut up right there, because I may be fucking talking shit out my ass. So, Gruesome, Dark Flow Solution was the shit. I need more. Give me more Gruesome. Take what you did with this EP and give me Dark Flow Solution 2. That way I can slap the two together and have a really fucking great listening time. Moving right along to another album, completely blown away by it, Wasn't expecting to be blown away by it. I listened to this album purely off of the hype of one other person. The homie Robbie, aka Twisted History, aka Do It for the Underground on Instagram. He hyped this album up before it came out, so when it dropped, I was like, I'm checking this album out purely off of him hyping it up. And then after, like several weeks after this came out, I've been talking to the homie Ronebone from Beneath the Dirt. He randomly one day texted me. He said, if you have not checked this album out, you gotta listen to it. And by that time, I had already been bumping it purely off of Robbie's recommendation. This is why I need you back, Ron. If you are watching, this is why we need you back. Because, like, you are the guy that always recommended shit to me. And so I need you back. And that way I can watch Robbie recommend some shit and get hype about some shit. As well as you. But I am talking about Cloudy Alibi by Stray. Again, I went into this not knowing who Stray was. The little bit of research that I've done on him, he's from Sky Swamp Orange is the name of the band. I went and listened to the album that they dropped last year, and I just wasn't a fan of it. It was explained to me that it's like some Linkin Park type shit mixed with other stuff, but there was a lot of screaming and growling in that particular album that kind of turned me off and pushed me away from it a little bit. And there's a tiny bit of that in a couple of the tracks here on Cloudy Alibi, but I think Cloudy Alibi is such a good album. And this was a debut from Stray. Like, I have full fucking focus on Stray now. Like, the next time he drops a project, I'm checking it out. This album is really fucking good. If you have not listened to Cloudy Alibi, go fucking listen to it right now. Pause this video. Go listen to Cloudy Alibi. Come back and tell me in the comments if I was right or if I was wrong. Or wait till after the video. But whatever. Whenever you listen to this, if you haven't listened to this, come back and tell me if I was right or if I was wrong, because this album is the shit to me. Fucking Stray kills it, and I'm excited to see what he does going forward. So, yeah. Again, I didn't expect to love this album as much as I did. I know Robbie was hyped for it, so when it dropped, I checked. I was like, God damn, who the fuck is this guy? Killed it. Absolutely killed it. So do yourself a service and go fucking check it out. Now, another album that I checked out, absolutely killed. I almost dropped a review for this, and the same way goes for Cloudy Alibi. I actually filmed them, both of them, but I did it like first thing in the morning. I had barely had 1 cup of coffee, so I could not focus worth a fuck. I didn't have all the tracks written down, so I couldn't remember names of tracks. And when it came time to put the videos out or put the reviews out, I was like, this is a disservice to them. Like, because they knocked it out of the park with these albums, and me reviewing them half-assed like that was a disservice. So I didn't put the videos out. I never got around to reviewing them, and that's why I want to show them love here. But we talked about it just a minute ago. Mission Infect Generals. I'm talking about Mad Max, baby. Kaleidoscope dropped. Now, at the gathering, there were these little samplers that were given out. They were like these like flyers, but they were kind of like card material. And you could scan them and you could listen to a sampler for this. Now, when I scanned it, because I got one from the homie Gage, aka Wasteland Waldo, because he ended up getting like a grip of them. I scanned it, pulled it up. It was only on Spotify. For whatever reason, I didn't listen to it on Spotify. I think I could have listened to it even though I don't use Spotify, but I waited and it finally dropped on Apple Music. I gave it a listen, and just the snippets of the songs, I was like, this album's going to be fucking dope. So when it dropped, I want to say it was it the beginning of September? I think it was the beginning of September when this dropped. Might have been the beginning of October. No, it was the beginning of September. I remember it being the beginning of September because it dropped right around the time that The Pit dropped. And when The Pit came out, that had full focus. This album was able to pull me away from The Pit, and I was able to listen to not only this, Cloudy Alibi, and The Pit all together. And normally when something drops and it pulls my attention away, I'm not listening to anything else but that one album. And The Pit was that album. It was pulling me away from everything. But Kaleidoscope and Cloudy Alibi managed to pull me away from The Pit. They managed to pull me out of The Pit, if you will. Absolutely killer fucking albums. And Mad Max was on some shit on this one. There's some topics that he's talking about that I have been feeling myself with a lot of the clout chasers in the community, with a lot of the I don't want to say juffs. I feel like that's such a toxic word, and everybody's saying it, overusing it. But there's a lot of like hound dogs in the community that are kissing ass for clout. They're kissing ass so that they can like, hey, I'm a juggalo, whoop whoop. Like it's kind of oversaturating the community right now, and there's a lot of expression of that in this. And this, to me, Kaleidoscope kind of feels like it's kind of like a, I don't want to say a love letter, but it's like kind of it's an old school juggalo, more or less addressing like the juggalos of today. You know, especially when you listen to the merry-go-round broke down. When you listen to that song, like that's him talking to these clout chasers. Like it's not like the grass isn't green on the other side like you're thinking. And I think that's his way of like talking to the people. Like every fucking body wants to be rappers now. Everybody wants to. And it's kind of like, if you don't have the ability to be a rapper, hang it up. But I don't know. I just really fucked with a lot of what he was saying in that album, and he absolutely fucking kills it in that album. So if you haven't listened to Kaleidoscope, go give it a listen. It's very fucking dope. I highly recommend it. So let's move right along so that we don't have to make this into a 3-part series, because I don't really want to do that. I just want to do it like it is. 2 parts, baby. 2 parts, baby. Now, of course, the Three-Headed Monster came through, obliterated everything back in June, right before the gathering, and completely out of nowhere, they came back with another Rampage. And I kind of firmly felt like I was going to review this album, but then the more that I kind of listened to it, I was like, I honestly don't really like Rampage nearly as much as Obliteration. There's some songs on there that are good, and I almost had feelings of like, are these leftovers from Obliteration, or were they strictly recorded for Rampage? I feel firmly they were recorded for Rampage, but I feel like some of them feel almost uninspired, if you will. If you are noticing right there, that is not the artwork. The artwork was way the fuck worse. It was literally just Three-Headed. Is this part here, but down below it had each of their logos. It had the Hatchman, it had the Real Life Productions, and it had the Chapter 17. That to me was an absolutely god awful fucking logo. So I don't remember. It was a Fago Lovers post that had this little Three-Headed Monster image. I literally took it and put it on here and did it in less than 15 minutes. I put together a better better album cover than they did. I think. You may disagree with me, but I don't care if you disagree with me or not. This is a better fucking album cover. The other one just felt lazy. It felt like the back, like that. It felt like that's what the back of the album should have looked like with the track list. Which right now there's only physical copies available to the people that attended the Three-Headed Monsters ball. So like, I don't know if they ever plan on releasing full physicals for it or not. But this album cover, way better. One thing I wanted to talk about in this was in Rampage. There's a part where Ouija Mac, he talks about others stealing his shit, and then he goes, "Real juggalos won't feel that shit," and like, it makes me chuckle every time I hear it, because I think Ouija Mac has no clue what real juggalos think. Real juggalos don't give a fuck. Real juggalos listen to whatever the fuck they want, whether you believe in the divide or not. Real juggalos don't give a fuck. They listen to what they want to listen to. That's always been the mindset of a juggalo for many fucking years. That's why we became the juggalos that we are, because we were like, fuck society, fuck the mainstream. So I feel like in our own fucking community, we have other juggalos like, oh, you listen to Twisted? Fuck you. What? Whatever, fuck you. Like, we listen to what we like. We listen to what we want to fucking listen to, regardless of what society thinks. And it's crazy that that's happening in the fucking juggalo community. To me, it's crazy that that's happening. But yeah, it gets a chuckle out of me, because it's like, come on, Ouija. You don't have a clue what real juggalos fucking feel or know. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But moving right along, jumping right off of that, right into the fucking album that has caused so much controversy and shit talking this year. Twisted's Odyssey. It's not the Three-Headed Monster, which, poor name choice on the Smoke-Headed Monster, I'm just going to say. And I know Monoxide mistakenly referred to this album as the Three-Headed Monster. Man, people latched on to that so fucking hard. And it's crazy that they completely missed the fact that he was calling Gmo Ski Valermo Ski. Like, clearly, you couldn't take him serious in that moment. But honestly, this album, I didn't care for it at all. Like, I don't know what the direction was with this. My understanding is they had previously done something with DJ Godzilla and then decided to do a full project. And it's not really Twisted. It's not even really Blaze. So I don't know why they're featured like on the cover and shit. This feels kind of like a Madrox featuring Monoxide and Blaze on a couple of the tracks. It's basically like just getting high. It's a Smokers album. I don't even fully know what the album's about. I know it's a Smokers album, and it was whatever to me. I didn't really care for it. It felt like it didn't have a whole lot of meat to it. There was not a lot of meat and potatoes to it. It was real soupy for me. So I gave it like 2, maybe 3 spins, and I moved on. So jumping right in, this album right here, King ISO's Ildren. I haven't made it through this album yet. This dropped back in October, towards the end of the month. I've started to listen to it. I think I've made it maybe to Holes, and that's it. I don't know what it is about this album. Normally, the last 2 albums that King ISO dropped, I fucking loved. I think I have an idea of what it is. A lot of the subject matter of what King ISO raps about is like mental health and like suicide and depression and things like that. And I don't the current mindset that I'm in, I'm not really vibing with it. And I feel like somebody's going to reach out to me and be like, this album's not like that. But this also dropped right around the time that Songs of Samhain 4 came out. So I was really gravitating to that as well. But, last year, King ISO dropped Get Well Soon. And then in the fall, he dropped 8 p.m. Med Call. And when I listened to that EP, I kind of had a similar thing where I was like, I'm really just not vibing with these tracks. And so far, that's kind of what I've been having with Ildren. So, like, I don't know why I'm fully mentioning it here because I haven't really fully listened to it, but I want to at least acknowledge it that I'm trying to listen to Ildren, but also jumping back to part 1 when I talked about Bloody Sunday and the Horde, I'm also not trying to force myself to listen to something if I'm not feeling it. So, Ildren, I'm still working on it. Now, another one that I've listened to it, but again, it dropped right around the time that Songs of Samhain 4 came out, so it is getting buried. It basically got lost in the sauce. So I have listened to it a handful of times. Hunter Games by Buckshot. I didn't even talk about the fucking name of the album. You can tell my ADHD is starting to kick in. I'm starting to lose my train of thought here a little bit. But absolutely love Moonlight. Fucking Straight Jacket. I'm telling you what, when he drops his new album, I'm going to listen to the shit out of that album. I'm telling you right now. A little background about Moonlight. I actually, at Unity Fest, had a wonderful conversation with Straight Jacket. We talked probably for a good 30 to 45 minutes about a lot of shit. And one of the things we talked about was this song. He basically was saying that originally it was going to be a song for his album, but he felt like it was going to be too dark for his album. So once he got the vocals back from Buckshot and everything and heard what Buckshot did, he was kind of like, hey, you can actually have that song. So he put it on his album. Absolutely fucking great. Absolutely love it. Straight Jacket. I'm waiting for that fucking album. And oddly enough, Straight Jacket's whole discography, all but one album called Snapped, has completely vanished off of streaming. So if you missed out on any of Straight Jacket's albums, I don't know if they're ever going to come back or not. You can't buy them physically, and they're no longer on digital. I don't even know where you could go buy them right now on digital, because even going on iTunes, I don't see a spot or a place to go buy the albums he has had. Thankfully, years ago, I bought Closure, so I do have Closure, which is a great fucking album. But all the rest of his albums have disappeared. And that kind of sucks, because like bouncing off of this particular song, I really wanted to listen to some Straight Jacket, and all I could listen to was Closure, which, don't get me wrong, Closure is a great album. But yeah, kind of sucks. But yeah, Hunter Games, not bad at all. I think one of the issues I have sometimes with listening to a lot of mob style projects is all of the albums are produced by Seven, and they're all mixed and mastered by Rob Rebeck. So sometimes the albums kind of blur together for me, and that's just kind of what happens. They kind of blur together for me, and some of them don't stand out as well as some of the others. But moving along to completely out of left field, Tech Nine presented Nut House Signaling the Sigley. I think is that how that's said? Signal. It's like with a Q, but it's Signaling the Sigley, right? This album right here, I didn't expect to really enjoy, coming off of Bliss. I have actually told a few people that this album right here really feels like some old school Tech Nine. I really got old school Tech Nine vibes from it. So if you have found yourself not enjoying Tech Nine as of the last few years, which a lot of people will say KOD was his last good album, I would suggest going and giving this a listen and tell me what you think. And I think a lot of it is the production on this. It sounds very old school Tech Nine to me. And I kind of wonder if that was done purposely. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. But once again, this is another project that dropped right around the time the Songs of Samhain 4 came out. So it did fall to the wayside just like the others. So I believe that actually might be it. I think that's everything. No, I'm going to pull this one up. I'm going to talk about it real quick because I was going to do a review for it, but now I'm not so sure as we are coming into the last month of the year. Maybe I'll surprise you and drop it in January. I don't know yet. But Blaze Ya Dead Homie dropped Graveyard Greats Volume 2. I did do a review for the first one, and that's why I kind of felt like I needed to do a review for the second one, but I'm iffy and hesitant going into it because doing this review, I want to play tracks from it, but you can't stream this. The only way to listen to this album is to buy it physically. So I am wondering if I'm going to get hit with copyright strikes or if I'm going to get my videos taken down playing songs. But the only way that I want to review this is if I can play songs, because I feel like I want to do comparisons of playing the originals versus what came out. Because some of the beats are like, to me, some of the beats on here are better than what we got on the albums, I feel. So, yeah, if I end up doing that review, cool. If not, then I want to just say here that there's a lot of the tracks on here that I like more than what ended up on the albums. Like, If I Fall, the OG version, way better than what ended up on Colton Grundy. So, maybe I'll end up doing that review, maybe not. Maybe I'll film it and see what happens in the editing and uploading process if it ends up getting taken down. But yeah, I wanted to come on here and talk about albums that I missed in 2023. This ends part 2. If you have not watched part 1, make sure you go check out part 1. And if there's an album that came out this year that you really love that I didn't mention in either of these videos, tell me down below what are some albums you thought were really fucking amazing, and if you think that I should check them out. I might just do that. I might not, but I also might. So I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.